Hello everyone, I'm Michael from Launch Online and I love Google Tag Manager. Since joining the team, I've been helping out a fair few of our clients get their tracking in order, and to help me help you do the same, here are some of the most common mistakes I see when auditing a GTM container. First up, we have link click contains tell. And you would most likely set up this trigger within GTM if you wanted to track clicks or taps to a clickable telephone number on a website, just like we do on our own site. Depending on your business, you may count this interaction as a conversion, or you may just simply track it out of curiosity. I've seen many triggers of this nature be set up with the following firing logic, and that is that click URL contains tell, and that's just the word tell, T-E-L, which is all well and good unless you have pages on your website such as, well, any of these really. There are many different ways in which a URL can contain the letters T-E-L in sequence. In fact, hotels in Tel Aviv contains it twice, and you wouldn't want to count a user clicking a link to any of these pages or similar that you may have on your website in this way, because this interaction does not represent a real tell click. So to ensure your data collection is as accurate as possible, there are a couple of changes you can make to this setup. First, make sure the click URL has to start with tell rather than simply contain it, and also to make sure you can add a colon after the word tell to really ensure you're only firing tags on a true telephone number link click. Next up, we have an easy mistake for anyone to make, and that is page URL equals. You see this type of trigger set up a lot when there is an interaction to be tracked on a particular page. In this example, imagine a purpose-built landing page being used on your website to help promote a specific campaign or offer. You may want to track form submissions all over your website, but right now you're particularly interested in just the form on this page. By using this firing logic, it will indeed track if that page is showing in the user's browser when they make that form submission. However, this often comes undone when a query parameter is attached to the URL. Commonly, this would happen if a user has landed here from a paid ad, say, or even an email campaign, or any other kind of tagged link. This is great for tracking in many different ways, but not with regards to your tag firing as intended. To make sure this doesn't happen to you, one simple change can be made, and that's to use page path instead of page URL, as the page path variable will not capture anything that has been added to the end of a URL. Note that you also want to remove the website domain and just focus on the / and what comes after it. If in doubt, you can use the preview mode within Google Tag Manager and enable the built-in page path variable to see what is captured upon a page view. Okay, in the last example, I used form submits as an interaction that you'd want to track. This leads me neatly to our next type of common error, and that's measuring form submit attempts instead of confirmed form submissions. Typically, you'd find this set up using Google Tag Manager's built-in form submission trigger type. This is usually paired with either page path or form ID when looking to track a specific form on the website rather than every form that exists all across your website. It all seems very straightforward and logical, however, despite being called the form submission trigger, for most types of forms it will actually track clicks to the submit button, regardless of whether all the required information has been entered. To make things worse, you will often find multiple clicks lead to your associated tags firing multiple times when multiple clicks are made. The result is a long list of form submits and clicks in your event timeline. Depending on your setup, this could fire the tags once or even multiple times, when in reality no form submissions have taken place at all. This will lead to inflated and inaccurate data, which is not what we want. The fix for this is a little less straightforward than the previous examples. Unless you can confirm that the form submission trigger is working as intended on your website, it's best to ditch this trigger type altogether. Instead, you may be able to create a form listener using JavaScript, which will fire a custom event only when a successful submission has been made. I'll link to a great guide from Analytics Mania in the description that makes this process easy to follow, even if you have little to no previous experience with JavaScript. Alternatively, or should this not work, you can enlist the help of a front-end developer to implement a custom event via a hard-coded data layer push. So, fourth on our list could possibly be the most commonly seen mistake of them all, and that's not applying referrer logic when using a page view trigger or similar on a thank you page. So once again, the trigger setup in question looked perfectly reasonable. Even if you followed my advice from earlier and used page path instead of page URL, this can still lead to inflated data and conversions being counted when they shouldn't be. To see how big the risk is on your own website, you can paste your own specific thank you page into your browser's URL bar, but don't hit enter. Instead, go to the beginning of the URL and type the word site with a colon with no spaces in between that and the URL. Now press enter and pay close attention to the next screen. If it appears in the search listings here, it means that your thank you page is being indexed organically, and your users have the potential to land on this page even if they haven't completed any type of required action, be it a lead submission, a newsletter sign up, or even a purchase. And if it's able to be reached by organic traffic, then it could also be used in any dynamic features you may be using with your paid ads accounts, for example, dynamic search ads or automated ad extensions. You can confirm this further by checking your analytics reports, checking the landing page report in particular, and see if any users are landing on this particular page, how often that's happening, and exactly where they're coming from. The results might surprise you. You can tighten the accuracy of this relatively easy here, and that's by ensuring that anyone who should have gotten to the thank you page legitimately should have logically come via a previous page on your website, rather than say an external link or listing. And you can do this by enabling the built-in referrer variable within GTN and using it to check the user's previous page view was on your own website rather than someone else's. Now, the associated tags won't fire for those arriving on the page without performing the action that you want to thank them for. Now, fifth and finally, and I say finally because I've got loads more to share but we could be here all day, is a habit that can really get on people's nerves, especially when more than one person is involved in updating a Google Tag Manager container. And that is creating a trigger for every single tag when it's not necessary to do so. To illustrate, here's an example of what you can sometimes find within a container. 5 tags, each with their own trigger, all relating to the exact same interaction on a website. Not only have you made excess work for yourself in making duplications of a trigger that only needed to be in there once, but the next person is going to have a harder time figuring out what trigger they need to use if, say, they want to track a conversion on an entirely different ad network or analytics platform. Now, let's sprinkle in some additional horror. Let's say that all 5 tags are meant to fire on the same website interaction, but one of the triggers is set up differently to the others. This would lead to mismatched data across platforms and potentially some awkward questions from your client or your internal staff. All you need is a simple change in your mindset. Tags aren't meant to be paired with their own bespoke trigger when multiple tags are required to fire upon the same action. Think of triggers as representing specific interactions on your website. In this example, we have a nice, tidy, user-friendly setup when the trigger is named appropriately to what it does and all related tags fire together in sweet harmony. So to wrap up, here are the 5 solutions we've covered today, and most importantly, don't feel bad if you've ever made a mistake that we've covered today. Google Tag Manager is an abstract thing to get your head around, and the best way to become more adept is simply have more hands-on time. Also, let me know if you found this video helpful, and who knows, maybe I'll make another one soon. Have a great day now.